Thank you for joining us for another episode of Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. My name is Catherine, and our host Tony will be joining us shortly. Our goal is to bring stories that make you laugh, smile, and even cry, but most of all, give you hope. Please don't forget to support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel and following us on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Again, I'm Catherine, and I hope you enjoyed today's show.
Hey, I'm Tony the Mayor from Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. And the following podcast that you're about to watch is centered on grief. It's a podcast that we did a few weeks ago with a group of women called Good Grief. And it's a grief recovery, how to deal with grief, not just recovery, but how to deal and share stories with each other from the loss of loved ones. We know that all of us have experienced the loss of a loved one at one time or another. And today, we just want to focus on holiday grief, because the holidays are coming up. And not just the holiday, you have the fall seasons that are coming up, the winter season. So we lose all the color, the flowers and the green trees, and we lose the sun a lot of times. We don't have that sunshine every day. And this could cause us to even have more grief or have more reason to shelter in the house and stay in the house because of things that we've experienced in the past or because of the loss of a loved one. But today's podcast is the story of these ladies, and we want to help you to understand that you could be triumphant through these times and you can have victory. No, you won't be smiling every day, but we know that the Bible says that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. It's just a matter of when your morning comes. Please listen and enjoy the podcast today and let it minister to you. I'm Tony the Mayor from Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Hello, my name is Tony the Mayor from Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. Our podcast is available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music, and various other platforms. All you have to do is Google my name, Tony the Mayor, or Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. Today we're talking from members from Good Grief, which is a grief support group. And I have with me, and I'll go from my left to your right this morning, first names only.
Brianna. Carolyn.
Tawanda. Glenda.
And I'm Tony the Mayor. We want to focus on recovery also, and if not recovery, or being in recovery, or learning how to deal with different things as we're going through these times. I do have a few questions, and one of my first questions would be, have you and your family continued the same traditions around the holiday season? You know, around this time of year, are you still, using the same tradition as you did before your loved one passed away?
So I personally don't celebrate holidays. After my grandmother passed, my family kind of dismantled a little bit, and then I had another aunt, and it got further and further away from celebrating those holidays or getting together. So now I definitely, around those times, I focus on family more than the actual holiday movement of the holiday. So the seasons, like you said, when the seasons, the leaves change and things like that, you can feel it in the atmosphere. And with my faith as strong as it is, that definitely brings me closer not only to God in those times, in those moments, but having those traditional gatherings of family-focused opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
As for me, my late husband has passed away several years ago. But since his passing, I really don't do holidays anymore. When we were together as a family, he loved the holidays. He was the one who wanted to have the big turkey for Thanksgiving and cook all the trimmings with the meal. And he was the one who always wanted to decorate the house with lights and put up the Christmas tree. I was the one who got stuck taking that stuff down and putting it away for the next year. So as the years have gone by, there are no lights in my house. I haven't put up a Christmas tree in years. All the things that he used to do, I didn't continue those traditions. I just left it as a very special meaning that was just a time in our life together, but I didn't continue the tradition. Although my children are adults now, they continue those traditions for their own family. But being a widow, I didn't continue the traditions that we had when we were a nuclear family and when he was alive.
Thank you.
And with the question, yes, I still continue celebrating all holidays, and I consider birthdays and anniversaries also a holiday. I too have adult children, but we still come together and we tend to celebrate every holiday. Only difference is my husband is not here to celebrate with us, but we know he's there in spirit.
Okay.
As for me and my family, my husband just passed away the 6th of May, so this is all new to us as to how we're going to celebrate the holidays. But we did a big thing for Labor Day, which was something different for us. We did a balloon launch and a bench dedication to him on Labor Day, which gathered around a lot of friends and family, which was a blessing for us. As for right now, looking at Thanksgiving and looking at Christmas, Jack always got the turkey and the ham, so that was our part of the meal, and we would get together with the kids. I pray that we'll still be able to get together like that. As for Christmas, we all do the matching pajamas thing, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I don't know who I'm going to match up with this year, but just knowing that we can do that. Our as far as Memorial holiday, I was just talking with my daughter. On Memorial Day, when Jack was living, we'd get together and all of us would go to the grave sites, and we would put flowers on his mother, on his father, on our grandson, and on his first wife, Patricia. We would all go out and put flowers out on Memorial Day, and that would mean for Mother's Day and Father's Day. I pray that we continue to keep that up as well, because that was something that was big to him. And so we want to make sure that we keep certain things that was traditional to Jack. We want to make sure that we keep those things going.
Okay, thank you.
You had mentioned, and you were spot on when you talked about the fall season.
Right.
The fall season was always my husband's favorite time of the year. Mm-hmm. Since we dated years ago, he told me, I love the fall. Unfortunately, now fall is a not so happy season now. Mm-hmm. For me, since his passing, March would be his birthday month. November was our anniversary month, and he passed away 3 days before Christmas. So this time of the season is not really a happy time for me, but I can go all year and never think about it. And soon as fall comes in, it all resurfaces. The grief starts again, the tears starts again, the need to go into counseling starts again. And it's just those 3 months, his birthday month, our anniversary month, and then the month that he passed away.
And I heard some of you say that, your celebrations may have changed. And does that help, and how have you changed during the celebration? That time of the year, had it changed as far as the way you do things, or have you changed anything?
I think it has allowed me to express the way that I heal. I will tell you, as we sit here and we have this discussion, although you guys will hear it in November, we're doing this in October. October 9th, 2005 is when my Nana passed away, and I was the one to walk into the room and see my grandmother take her last breath. And as I sit here today, I'm super excited because I can tell you all that through the push of my healing journey, my mom has actually attended her first session of therapy, and I text my sister and I said, I'm excited to see the healed version of my mom. And for me being 35 and saying that this will be the first time I see a healed version of my mother elates me. And so looking into this season that is definitely darker for some people when it comes to the holidays, it's that push to find healing in these seasons, and talking to someone, whether that means a family member, things like that. So the expression of the push to heal for my family is what I'm doing.
That's a good question because, as I mentioned earlier, we don't do the traditional putting up the Christmas trees, and maybe don't even do a turkey or the big festivities for Thanksgiving. But because my late husband was a veteran, I do participate, and my children will attend. Like I said, they're adult children, but if they happen to be in town, we go to the Veterans Cemetery nearby because they do a wonderful recognition program called Wreaths Across America. And you can donate a leaf, you can wreath, or you can buy a wreath for your loved ones, or there's some already there because the veterans, take care of their own. And it's a nice little ceremony. It takes all of maybe 30 minutes. And each one who's there participating, they pick up a leaf, and at the same time, we all walk to the gravesite of our loved ones, and we lay a wreath on their grave. And I have really devoted my holiday to doing that, to honor him as a soldier who has passed away, and also to honor him for those 40 years of marriage.
That's beautiful. Okay. Did you have something? Anybody else?
As I sit here and think about everything, what everyone else has been saying thus far, as far as a change, only change I would say that has been made is because his presence is not here, his body is not here. But we still, like I had stated before, we continue on with celebrations. As far as with the holidays, I didn't mention the Memorial Day, and my husband did celebrate a birthday in September. September 1st would be his birthday. And we chose not to have my husband buried in the veteran, in St. Louis. We chose to have him in Missouri in our family plot cemetery, and which his family is located right next to my family. And so the blessing of that is my mom, whenever Memorial Day, birthdays, she goes out there and she puts the flowers and the flags and everything on, and she calls us on group chat, and we're able to participate in prayer, and each one of us say something, and we've done balloon releases, and we always had a theme where on my husband's birthday and then our anniversary, we all would go out to dinner, and we still do that, me and my girls. I just thank God we have someone available that, like I said, whenever we go home to visit, we're able to go by. We always drive by, and we'll stop, and each one of the girls will say, a prayer, and we'll tell him what's going on. And the difference, like I said, with him not being here, it's all good when the girls come together with me, but when I'm by myself is when I feel it the most. It's like, even this morning, when I woke up this morning, I prayed for this interview and everything to happen, and it just hit me. I'm laying there in bed, and I'm like, I'm laying by myself, and that's when it starts to hit me the most, and when stuff comes up, and I'm like, but I know he's smiling down on me, but change I know is good. I just love to keep things going, because we feel his presence. The girls are all, even I love on our phones now, memories that come up of pictures and everything that pop up, and that's a blessing for us because we all are able to share, on that, because they'll send, this popped up, let me share it to the group, or they'll post it on Facebook, and he was a girl dad, so yeah, it was major, yeah. And I tell you, another thing that really blesses us too, I'm a true firm believer in the cardinal, the red cardinal. And they always say it, there's a saying, when cardinals appear, loved ones are near. And we have lots of stories where the red cardinals will show up in times you least expect it. So it's a blessing, and we have really taken to that whole aura of his presence being near at all times.
That's beautiful.
Well, as for me, with October, that's always our special month. Jack and I have this thing that my birthday is the 24th of October, but I celebrate the whole month. So my husband is running up and down the streets with me every weekend, finding something to do. And I always try to plan it out right, that we have tickets to something every weekend of the month of October. And I'm continuing on doing that by myself this year. But our anniversary is the 26th of October, which would have been 17 years of marriage for us. And so just trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do on our anniversary? Well, on our anniversary, I'll be going to the Colts and Titans game, NFL game in Indianapolis. Young man, and I'm sure it's okay to give his name, but DJ Giddens was drafted into the NFL from Junction City. My husband was so happy for that young man to be able to be inducted. And so he says, we're going to go to one of his games. So for the 26th of October, I'm going to get to go to one of his games along with one of my girlfriends. And I'm going to take Jack in my heart with me, and we're going to get out there and pray the DJ gets in that game for Jack to see him run that ball. But that's what we do in October, and that's the only thing that's pretty much changing this year now. I'm able to do all those fun things by myself, and it's okay, because I found out that Glenda is really good company. She really knows how to have a good time by herself, and I don't meet no strangers, so therefore, right, I'm going to get somebody to take a picture of me clowning, I'm going to get somebody to have a conversation with me. So that's my whole thing, is that I truly miss Jack. He's only been gone 5 months. Yeah, 5 months. And it's just every 6th of the month, I tell everybody, I'm just going to eat the cake like anime. I'm not going to mourn. I'm not going to get down on the 6th of each month, because that's easy for me to do. So at this point, I'm trying to grab something sweet. My nutritionist might not be gained for this, but I'm going to get something sweet, piece of cake, whatever it is, and just eat that cake and celebrate him in that way.
That's great. Lead me right into our next question, and I was going to talk about the longevity, the time period. And I know it's different for each one of you sitting here. How long it's been since your loved one passed away? And, how long has it been? I know some of you've said already, but how long has it been since the loved one had passed away?
So I know I talked about my grandmother a lot, and that obviously would mark about 20 years. But as I sit here today, and it's crazy, Miss Glenda just said the 6th of the month is really hard for her. July 6th of last year, I lost my sister, Sonia Massey. As we're recording this, my family is in preparation to sit in the courtroom with the killer. So it's in that difficult moment in times for us right now. So in this most recent death experience, this good grief group support, doing this today is off the strength of these women before you. Definitely woke up this morning not wanting to answer any questions, but I heard God's voice say, He led the charge, and He gave me instructions. And when I was called upon to have this holiday grief group, it was for a reason. And this podcast and people saying yes. So if I didn't do it, I wasn't being obedient. So it's only been a year and what month are we in? 10 months So it's in that difficult moment. It's reliving the scars. They become scabs, and then they get picked, and then the blood starts bleeding again with everything that is going on. So it's really difficult, and I would say, yes, a year and 10 months, but it feels like just yesterday.
Do you have something on that?
Yeah, as I mentioned, this is a tough season for me, the fall. His birthday would have been the 20th of this month. Our anniversary would have been the 1st of November. And as you mentioned earlier, and people who have experienced death or death of a loved one, it seems to always correlate with a holiday. And his passing was on December 22nd, just 3 days before Christmas. So I reflect on our marriage, our relationship, all through this month. I only dreamt about him one time, and this may be going another direction, but I just feel like it's important to say. I've only dreamt about him one time, and when I dreamt about him, he was that tall, handsome, good-looking, healthy man in my dream, and I was so happy to see him healthy. I was so happy, and that's all I kept telling him. I said, I'm so glad you're healed. I'm so glad to see you healthy. I was just so happy that he was no longer suffering. So sometimes I have to remember the dream, and that dream had a meaning for me, and to let me know that he's okay. That was nearly 40 years of marriage. So his passing was more devastating to me than even the passing of my parents. My mother passed away when I was a young girl, 14 years old. My father passed away much later in my 50s, and I'm glad he waited till I was a big girl to do that. But, by that time I was on my own, an adult. But the passing of my late husband probably has been the most devastating experience I've had in my life. And I'm glad that she organized It's Good Grief, because it was at a time when I said I wanted to become more educated in grief, and I wanted to reach out to people myself who were grieving, particularly those who I knew I attended church with, because the need I felt was, if my heart was hurting and I knew my healing journey was going to take some time, I didn't want to do it alone. And having Good Grief has brought us together, and we've been a support to each other. So I hope I answered your question. I know I was babbling on. My apologies if I veered off.
Anyone else?
Well, my husband, Marvin Martine, he passed away on January 25th, 2021. And it was due to COVID, when COVID just started coming out. And we had to go through all this right after the first, of the new year coming in and everything. It's been 4 years since he's been gone, but it still feels like every day, because I miss him every day. There's another thing I do every morning when I wake up and say my prayers. I always put my hand up to the sky, and I blow kisses, and I say, I love you, Dew, and I love you, Savea Camille, which is my angel grandbaby. And his nickname was Doolittle, so I always called him Dew, shortened it to Dew. But we were high school sweethearts. After graduating high school, he was going into the military, and I remember when I said I do, he had asked my parents and everything. I'm the oldest of four, leaving home, so that was something then, they was like, taking my baby away. But traveling throughout the military, was in the military, so we had to grow up fast. We were like the youngest couple amongst all the people I remember our first studio station was Fort Meade, Maryland. But I just think being with one person all your life, in love with this one person, he was my person. We were together 38, well, it would have been 38 years in 21. And now I still keep track. We've married 42 years, even though he's not here now. But I still keep track of every anniversary. I miss him every day. I miss him, and I think of him and just smile. It's just, I miss him. I miss just having my man with me. It's harder. It took a moment, I say, when he passed away. We had stopped going to church. The girls stopped going to church because we were mad. We were truly mad at God because, and I am a person of faith, deep faith, but it's okay to be mad and it's okay to question God, because when he got sick, I did what the word of God said. You call on the elders, call on all those that pray. I called Bishop, everybody. They were there, for us. I called every pastor I knew, every evangelist, every minister, prophetess, you name it. I was on my knees. I was calling people left and right. And I prayed. And I was just like, Lord, just like you did for Lazarus, why couldn't you do that for my husband? And it got to the point where I got, was my faith not strong enough? Or what did I do to, and I know, like I said, knowing the Lord and everything, but your mind, you think, okay, my man is gone now. The head of our household is gone. The person you put in charge of our household, he is gone. So it got to the point where my faith and my strength, relying on God, he let me know, it's going to be all right, Tawanda. I got you. And so all I could do for my girls was pray, because when I got back into church, everybody would ask, where are the girls at? And I was like, just continue to pray for them, because God worked on me and he's still working on them. And they will come in their time when he's ready for them to come back. And when they did, they followed their mom and we came here. So I truly thank God, because my faith is truly what keeps me going. People always ask all the time, how do you do it? How do you do it? How can you still be walking around here, and smile with the smile on your face? And I said, that's God, because of his strength and his grace and his mercy. Hallelujah. I thank God for that, because if it wasn't for his strength, I would not be here today, because I always felt that when we died together, not him before the rest of our family, because he was the bond that held us together. He was that only male figure. Even our dog was a girl, so he was always in the house full of girls. And so I was like, I'm here being mom and dad. Even though my girls are grown, I'm still mom and dad, because they go through, I'm going to go through too, because your kids, they never leave you. They may grow up, but you're still got to be there. God placed them within us for a reason. So I thank God for that. But I also thank him for continuing to give me strength, because 4 years, it's every day for me. It's every day. I still miss him, wishing he was here. And I talk to him when I'm in the house, because their girls live on their own now. And so I'm in our big house. So people don't always ask, what do you do? Are you going to stay there? Yes, I'm going to stay there. That's the house he bought for us to live in. And I'm not going nowhere else. But people don't know what you go through when you're home by yourself, because that's when, and I do. I got pictures all over and everything still. His presence is still there, like he's just coming home, But it's God. It's God. And like I said, everything happens for a reason. God makes no mistakes. his will was done, and it was his time, regardless of whether me and the girls wishing it wasn't, But I truly thank God. And I end with this on that subject because it's like the song I sung, Everlasting God. That was our song that I sung to him. And make no mistake about it, well, he did wait for us when he transitioned, because when the doctor called me, I called the girls together. We got in the car, and it was going to take an hour, and the doctors kept telling, I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't know if he's going to make it. And we were praying all the way there. It started to snow and sleet and everything. And the girl's like, Mom, I was like, God's got us. And then as soon as we started praying, he made that path, them roads, the I-70 just cleared up. Everything just seemed to stop, and we got there in time. And he took us in this room, and they told us, beforehand what needed to happen. And only 2 of us could go in there. So it was me and my daughter, Tyra. And we had to dress from head to toe. And we were in there. We were on Zoom with all the family members so they could say, his brothers and sisters in Missouri, they could say goodbye also. And then my mom was here with Nalea on Zoom. And this is what touches me every time with this song. I was holding his hand. He was in an induced coma, medical coma. So he could not, speak to us or anything. He was just laying there. And I started praying then. I was like, okay, Lord, you got to come out. His heartbeat and everything was just as strong as could be. And then we started praying, and when it was my turn, and I started praying, and then I started singing. I held his hand, and I started singing to him. And I said, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I be afraid? And then all of a sudden, I saw him start crying. Tears was coming down. I took a rag, washcloth, and I started wiping him. And I was like, that was my sign. I thought, he's coming back to us. He's coming back. And I was so excited, I said, he hears me. So I kept singing even more. I was like, yes, baby. I said, squeeze my hand, squeeze my hand. And then every time he did that, his heart rate would go up. And so we looked at the nurse who was looking at us the whole time. And she came in, and we asked him, this is a sign he's getting better. And she was like, his hearing, he hears everything that is you've been said, everything that everyone was saying to him, their goodbyes and everything, you singing, he's hearing all of this. I didn't realize hearing is the last thing to go. And no sooner as I said that, she said that, and she walked out of the room, and he was able to say goodbye to all of us. And that's when, but God.
And I think I had already said that Jack had passed the 6th of May of 2025 this year. So my whole life has been kind of thrown off track, these last 5 months. But with God's help, I have continued to keep moving. Is that I always had this thing I used to say as soon as I married Jackie. I said, anything goes on with me or whatever, my life is all about Jesus and Jackie. I have never put Jackie before God ever. I knew that was my Boaz. I know that's who God had given me, but Jack was always my second-hand man. It's always been God and then Jackie. So they tease me when I say Jesus and Jackie because I've always said that. But I think the realness with me and Jack passing was because I was there at the hospital as well when he passed. And I watched them work on him and everything, and that just did something to my life because I know that God had me to witness that for a reason. I had to go through that whole duration. And I watched them when he coded and they did the CPR and everything and the crash cart and the AED and all of that. And the doc, I saw when he dropped his head. I saw the drop, and when he dropped his head and then he walked out to me, he said, we can't get his heart back to beating. And I said, okay, you need to call it, because I know that the time that they had been working on him versus the time, had they got that heart beaten, he was going to be brain dead because no oxygen had made it to the brain. And Doc called it. And when they went back in the room and they cleared everybody out, the 2 nurses went back in, and I think this was nothing but God. The 2 nurses went back in, they closed the door. They said, we're going to get him cleaned up and everything so the family can come in and view and see him. Just as they closed that door, I'm like, that's my man in there. What, y'all just closing me off from my man? And I knocked on the door and poked my head in. I said, is it okay if I come in and help you all clean him up before the family sees him? You could tell they had never had that request before. Nobody's asked them to come in and help clean their loved one up. I went in, they gave me all the bubble stuff, and I helped them clean him up, and they said, wash his face, because we know you want to see his face. And I did all of that. I washed his face and everything. And just knowing, just that moment, being able to do that, that was nothing but the strength of God, because Glenda couldn't have done that on her own. So I thank God for that special moment that he gave me to be able to be there with Jackie to clean him up. You know, and you guys know Jackie always sews suspenders and blue jeans. So for the service, that's what we honored him with. We wore blue jeans, we wore suspenders and T-shirts, and that's the way we came out. And I thank God as well for that. I have a very large family. We have 13 grandkids, and we have 13 great-grands, and we have one on the way. So the Johnson's family is a big family, you know, and it was a blessing for me to marry into a big family, because I came from a big family, from being from Gary, Indiana, and Chicago was where all my family's at. So I thank God for the time that I got to spend with my husband and everything, and it has been nothing but anything short of a blessing to be able to just be in the same home that we shared, and just know that all his memories and everything are there, and I can just go in and I can just smile and look at his pictures every day.
Thank you.
My late husband passed away December 22nd, 2017. A Friday. I woke up that morning about 5:30, and something in my spirit, Holy Spirit, said, get to the nursing home, get to the nursing home. The nursing home was 2 hours away. I felt this time was a time that I should not go by myself. Normally, I visit him on my own, I drive myself, come on home. But this particular morning, it said, take somebody with you. So I called a friend. I said, at 5:30 that morning, I said, if you don't have anything planned, can you go with me to the nursing home? I said, I feel like I need to go. Yeah, pick me up. So we rode up there, the 2-hour ride. There wasn't any girl talk. We rode in silence. Got to the nursing home, walked in the nursing home door, and the nurses jumped when they saw me, and they said, oh my goodness, what are you doing here so early? Because I normally visit him at lunchtime, not 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said, I just came to say good morning to him. And I went back, and you know, he looked all frail. Maybe he wore 100 pounds, maybe. And I knew then in my spirit he was leaving. And I kneeled down to him and I said, I'm so happy for you. You're going to give up this body now. He acquired a traumatic brain injury, PTSD, and later on Parkinson's disease after Desert Storm. So he was ill nearly 30 years with all kind of neurological problems and going in and out of crisis, which meant I was going in and out of crisis. But that morning I told him, in my spirit, it just said, he's ready. And I told God, I'm ready for him to go. And I told him, I kept saying, I'm so happy for you. You're giving up this body. You don't have any use for this body anymore. He no longer talked. He no longer walked for years, bedridden. And I said, it's time for you to go. But I told him this, and my friend, I love her for this. Whenever I saw him, I always took pictures because I said this could be the last time. So I told him, I said, I want you to open your eyes so you know that I was here. And I bent over to kiss him. He opened up his eyes and he took his last breath. And my friend got a picture of that. And I love that picture. I have it enlarged to like 11 by 14. I love that picture because I knew at that very moment, now I know why God said, till death do you part. All the marriage vows came back to me at that moment. And I said to him, I hope I've made you proud as your wife. I hope I've made you proud. I know I honored God, but I hope I have made you proud. And that was his last breath.
That was beautiful.
It was beautiful because the nursing home didn't call me and say, you need to get here. And then I know when they say the two become one, I got it. They didn't have to call and tell me. The Holy Spirit told me, get up there. You got a 2-hour ride. Get up there. And it was so beautiful. And I told my children about it. It was the most beautiful experience of that 40-year marriage to see him take his last breath. That was beautiful.
Thank you. In the Bible it says, in Psalms 30:5, it says, for his anger lasts only for a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may stay for a night, but rejoicing cometh in the morning. And with this last question, has your morning arrived yet? Some of you guys have answered already. You really have, that your loved one had passed away. And with that, what have you learned through this journey? Something that you can pass along to someone else that's going to be listening to this and maybe going through this in the future.
I think from all the things that we have said today, it's important to recognize that your healing journey looks different, but if you have the support of friendship, of family, you can get through this. The difficult moments obviously come when you're alone, but once you come out of those moments, say something, speak up, acknowledge when someone needs that hug, someone needs that additional, hey girl, how you doing? Or hey, what's up? I haven't heard from you, or I haven't seen you, to check in and check up on not only you as yourself, because you have to speak it out. Some people do have to speak it out, but anyone additionally that may be hurting.
My grief journey actually began before he died. Believe it or not, he spent nearly the last 20 years of his life living in a nursing home. So that's 20 years of the VA, when he lived in the VA for several years, when he lived in a local nursing home for several years, then when they sent him to Kansas City to a nursing home for a couple of years. My grief started before he had even died. He lived almost 18 years of his life, last 18 years of his life in a nursing home. And that's how I spent my Saturdays and sometimes Sundays, because when he was in the VA, we would go up and visit him on Sunday, and I would cook Sunday dinner, things that I knew he liked, banana pudding and red beans and rice. And it would just, I'm smiling because it used to put a smile on his face and get that home-cooked meal. And we would have Sunday dinner in the nursing home on Sundays, and we would go to the chapel there as a family to church, so that way he got a service. So my joy came when I dreamt about him that February. He died in December, and I dreamt about him. It was Groundhog Day when I woke up, and I dreamt about him, and I saw him healthy. I saw him healthy, and I'm not ashamed to say all those years that he was ill, I never prayed for God to heal him. My prayer was, God, your will be done. If this is the life that you have put before him and I, teach me how to do this. Because I have never seen anybody that would have to do this, to go to a nursing home week after week, year after year. I've never seen anybody do it. And I said, God, if this is what you have for us, teach me how. Because I have my children looking at me. And I'm that example of what marriage is going to look like for them, because this is their father. And I wanted to be a good example for my children and be what God had charged me to do. my joy came when I dreamt about him and saw him, and I woke up so happy just to see him again, alive and healthy, knowing how we had suffered all those years and how his body had suffered all those years. So yes, and being here. For me, it's 8 years later. I don't cry anymore when I hear the word husband. I used to cry if I heard someone say, my husband, and I would just go into tears. I don't cry anymore. I'm looking now 8 years later. I thank God for the journey. But what I'm most proud of, as I believe, I did it just the way God wanted me to do it. Till death do we part. Sickness and health. I did it just the way he wrote it. And that's what I'm most proud of. And I didn't understand why he put those vows in the marriage vows, because at 21, I just was repeating what the preacher said. But when it really happened, I said, oh, now I get it. There was something to that. It was really something to it. When sickness and health, I thought maybe it would be a cold or a broken foot. I had no idea it would be 30 years of taking care of a man with brain trauma. 30 years of being married to someone who couldn't talk to me, who couldn't be at home and be my husband, who I had to advocate for him. I went all the way to Washington, D.C., and stood on Capitol Hill and told the Veterans Administration, you will take care of this veteran. You will. And I'm advocating for everybody else, but this one here, you're going to take care of. And I was crying. It was that ugly cry when I told him. But nonetheless, my joy came the day I had that dream, and I knew that he was all right.
Did you have anything?
Yes, this has been experience I never would want anybody else to have to go through. My sister had told me I didn't want to be in this wives club, and it's a word I never like to use, widow, but I am. I'm a widow now. And, but the love that we shared, it will be infinite, just like my love for the Lord. Because if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here. My joy is in all of this is in knowing that when it's time for me to transition, I will see him again. Like you, my sister, our marriage was a testament of what my girls, our 3 daughters, they now look for that in, their mate, their person. And I would tell them all the time, I said, you can look all you want to, but they only made one just like your daddy, and what he stood for, his belief, his faith in God, his trust in God. It's hard to come by in this generation now, of what men look for in women and what women look for in men. But God has truly blessed me with being married to this person, and I can still say I love him so very much every day as if he was here. And I'm to the point now where, I know I will never marry again, but I know God's got a person out there for me to be a companion, to be a friend, to be someone I can hang out with, go to the movies or something, But I'm waiting on God because I've come this far by faith, trusting in God's word, and I know he's going to bring me through. As for other women that are going through this now, or when it does come, just know that you're going to go through some turmoil. It's going to be rough, a lot rougher than you may think it is. And a lot of times we hold it in inside, but when it does come out, it comes out. It comes out when you least expect it too, a lot of times. Just like my sister said with the vows, we got married, I was only 20 when we got married. So it's like, wasn't even 20, it was 19, I believe it was. And with the vows again, through sickness and health, death do us part, literally. And I tell people that now, yeah, death is what took us apart. Nothing else did, nothing else did. I know what I had. He knew what he had, So, yeah, I thank God for that. And I just say that for anybody else that goes through this, get into some kind of grief support. This good grief was such a blessing, is such a blessing, because my girls were able to come and share in this with us, when we had the group settings. And now I know I have some sisters here that I can call on anytime. And please, call on me anytime, because there is a lot of nights I don't sleep. I'm up like 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes when you can't sleep. And I will pray, I will do my crossword puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, whatever, listen to some music, watch TV, but I still have my moments. It just happens. It seems, and 3 o'clock is usually that perfect number that it seemed to be awakened, and God knows though, He knows. And when I tell Him all about it too, because it's like, when your best friend you can't call on, I know I can call on Jesus. So I thank God for that. And that's what keeps my faith, even the more stronger. And for those that are out there listening, please just have faith. And God, there's a saying, if God brings you to it, He's going to bring you through it. And that's exactly what He's done for me.
You take some words, for granted sometimes that we read in the Bible until they really hit. And when saying, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. That didn't have a whole lot of meaning at first to me. But since Jack has passed, my time is my midnight hour. You get to 3 o'clock, I get the midnight hour thing going on. And I'm up and I'm walking around and I'm talking to him. I sleep on his side of the bed now, because that's my comfort. To be able to sleep on his side of the bed, on his pillow, because he used to hate that. Get on your side of the bed, girl. Now I want to be on your side of the bed. And so that means a lot to me. What I want to say is, with Jack and I, it was such a God thing that how we met in church, how long we dated, 6 months, to get married right behind a 6-month relationship with somebody that you really don't even know. All he did was see me around the church from 2005 to 2008 is the year that we got married, and I saw him as well. And the most we ever said was, how you doing, brother? How you doing, sister? And for me to marry somebody 6 months into a relationship, that was not Glenda. And I knew that it was nothing but God, and I knew God had His hands all over it, because I had come out of an abusive marriage. And so I was gun shy. So I'm like, hey, don't have to worry about me and no more marriages. I'm good, But just saying that, and just for any woman knowing that we may go through some things, and that first marriage may not have been it, but your Boaz is out there. Jackie Johnson was my Boaz. He took care of me. The first thing Jackie Johnson ever gave me was a ticket to come to the VFW to get a dinner. Fish, they were doing feeding folks, chicken and fish dinners, whatever. He gave me a ticket at church. He said, hey, take this ticket down there to the VFW. You can pick up a dinner. And then I said, I sure hope it's paid for. He said, oh, yeah. Just tell him Brother Johnson gave you the ticket. Don't y'all know that man gave me a ticket for fried chicken or fish, whichever dinner I got, and that man was feeding me from the day after. He has fed me every day after that one little ticket. He didn't know that. I didn't know that, but he has. But just knowing that his spirit is in our home, and that he's in there, and his pictures, I do not put them away. His pictures are everywhere, because I need to go down the hallway. I need to come to the bedroom. I need to go in the living room. I need to see his face. That's what I draw my strength on, and I know God has given me the strength to continue to run on. I think all this summer I was telling everybody I'm outside because I wanted to make sure I was doing something every weekend, because to sit in the house brought me nothing but I would sit there and I would just think too long, and I would just cry. And I know that grief comes in waves, and that's what I do. You never know when I'm going to break down crying. I just start, and it just happens, and you just have to let me cry to get that out and get past that. But just knowing that God has held me, has kept me to keep on the right path to get through all of this, these 5 months, to get me there has been nothing but a blessing to watch my sisters in Christ that have lost husbands. I can draw from them, seeing that how they're doing. Sister McTavish doesn't even know, but I have watched her ever since Mac has passed. Didn't know why she was my idol, didn't know why she had become such a mentor. The love that they shared was just awesome, and I was on the outside looking in. Now I can look at her and I can see how she does, and she give me a few words of wisdom, and she give me some guidance, and then she kind of, threatens me with the little spoon that she has in her purse. If I don't act right, she gonna whoop me. But there's certain people in your lives that really give something to you, and you don't even realize they're giving you something, and you don't even realize when you're gonna use it. But I thank God for that. I thank you for having us on to be able to give this, and and just like I said, I'm always open to talk to anybody that wants to talk. I'm gonna give you the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm not sugarcoating anything that has happened in my life ever. Will I sugarcoat it? Because it's not gonna help a woman any if I sugarcoat anything. If I give it to you straight, not shaking, then I know you got it.
Thank
you, Tony.
All right, I thank each one of you. And before we end, Carol has something for us. Carol?
There are some suggestions or ideas that people can practice during the holiday season to cope with your holiday grief. As it was mentioned earlier, this might be your first holiday without your loved one, or you may be the one that's experiencing it, and the other family members may seem to be functioning perfectly fine. Grief is very personal. But some things we could do, we started right here today. Just talk to someone. Talk to someone, whether it's a friend, whether it's a therapist, whether it's clergy, go to a support group. You need to talk to someone. I recognized early on, he passed in December. In January, I put myself in therapy. And that's the best thing I could have done for myself. He was not the first person I knew who died, but this kind of grief I had never known before. It was as if, and he was my husband, I had died with him or was trying to die with him. Every day I woke up, I said, oh, I'm alive. I said every day, I'm alive. I used to touch my body and say, well, I'm still here. We were so part of each other, I felt like maybe I wasn't going to be here the next day because we were just that close. Another idea is if we talked earlier about whether or not you continue the same tradition, sometimes it could be helpful to start a new tradition. You might want to light a candle. You might want to play that person's favorite song, or you might want to cook their favorite dish, or just sit around and share memories. You can start a new tradition. What's also important is to set boundaries. Sometimes we have to say no to certain things because you're not ready for them. I know when my late husband passed, I was attending a different church here in town, and I could not walk through that church door without him. And I cried and I cried, and I said, Lord, please, one Sunday I woke up, and I said, Lord, please send me to where you want me to fellowship, but I cannot go back to that church. And they sent me here, and I've been here ever since. So allow yourself to opt out of things that you feel you're not ready for. It's okay to refuse going to the holiday Christmas party or the Thanksgiving dinner with your old friends. And another important thing to do is to plan your holiday in advance. And that way you can reduce the anxiety. Sometimes we're on automatic, we just do things because we've been accustomed to doing it. But now this may be a time for change. You may want to do something else. That's what I've incorporated in my life. I feel better functioning by doing something different. And for those who would like to be generous with their finances, you can always donate to an organization in your loved one's name. You can say this is on behalf of my veteran. In my case, I give to the local vet club in his name. He was living with a traumatic brain injury. I'm very involved with that organization, and I go do speaking engagements about what it was like to live with someone with traumatic brain injury, and it was not a good experience. But to let them know that I've experienced what they are experiencing, perhaps. So you can always do donations to organizations, to churches, to honor your loved one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. I'm Tony the Mayor, your host. Please follow, like, subscribe. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Let me know that you were there. You can reach me also at bigdog0862@me.com. Have a blessed day. Keep it real and keep it strong. And keep it 100.